Hello, Oliver.
Hello, Lucas.
Hi, very nice to have you back on my show. Um, this is the second time, but what's actually quite interesting is that you were my second guest, and it's already been quite a while. Um, but now you're back because I really wanted to go a bit more in depth on a few things. Yeah, you might be very you might be the right person to talk about. Um, so yeah, welcome. And can you maybe give us a short introduction of who you are for the people who haven't seen the first interview? Just a short.
Yes, my name is Oliver Kruse-Dougherty. I once in a while work as a tango DJ, what I did in the past a lot. And since the lockdown, a lot has changed. And so I'm not every weekend on the road anymore, which is also quite relaxing. Uh, I have a longer history in tango, also as a tango teacher in Gouda and in Aachen and in Arnhem, Nijmegen, Enschede, a lot of places in the Netherlands, also abroad in Europe. And I'm with tango since 1993. That's quite a time.
Yes, that's quite a time. So for anyone interested, last time really covered Oliver's history. Um, and now I wanted to yeah, expand on some subjects that I find interesting about Oliver, such as his DJing. Um, and some of his philosophical thoughts, because for anyone who knows Oliver or watched the last interview, you might be aware that Oliver is quite, yes, philosophical, and you'll probably notice very quickly in this interview as well. But it's a great trait about Oliver, and well, I'm really glad to have a person like that again here on my show. So yeah, there's just it's a bit of an awkward start, but there's one thing I haven't really covered in the last interview. Um, that's that you stopped with your tango school in Gouda, the place where you live with Chauvin. And yes, can you tell us a bit about that, about that decision? Because I didn't cover that in the last interview.
Yes, we did not talk about that. That's true. Now, actually, we were very lucky that we had decided to round off our activities in our tango school in Gouda, in Gouda, Las Rosas del Tango, at the beginning of 2019. We're actually very lucky that it happened at that time, so we were also not affected by lockdown, COVID, or other crises. Um, Now you have to know that I anyway was not teaching anymore since quite a while. Siobhan was actually running the school nearly on her own. I helped with the publicity, with administration things, and also, of course, being in contact with our students a lot. But she was preparing the lessons, giving the lessons. In the last years, very beautiful. Uh, what was possible. She worked together with Levi, uh, beautiful tango dancer, very interested in the didactics of how do you learn to dance Argentine tango as a European, as a person who has grown up in Europe, in Western Europe. And but Siobhan was actually more and more interested to do more intellectual work. She has a background as an art historian, as an artist, as a she did a lot with fundraising in Scotland before she came to the Netherlands. She was actually giving grants. And so she switched, was it in 2018, already slowly, to a very important NGO working in The Hague, the Mukwege Foundation. She's still a fundraiser for this NGO. And the work became so there was so much work that had to be done that she actually had to decide, or I stop with that work, or I round off the tango school. So we decided to do that together, and that happened in January 2019. We were very lucky that Kim van Egmond, together with Mark Socario, who was quite well known out of the El Gancho times in Utrecht, we're very happy that they took over our lessons in Gouda. And they're also busy again now. There have been taster lessons. I think they have started again teaching. Now, not now during the summer vacation, but there will be happening a lot in the coming autumn with them.
So tango in Gouda is alive and kicking.
Now it's allowed again. It is, yes.
Yes, that's very fortunate considering everything we've been through as a tango global community in the past few years. It's good to know that also where you live, we are fortunately surviving, and but not with Sylvain and you as organizers, as teachers anymore. So that's something of the past, I guess.
No, what we are still doing, of course, we are dancing, especially Siobhan, and we are DJing. Siobhan,
Yes.
a bit less, I maybe a little bit more. Depends on how everything develops.
Yes. So one of the main topics I wanted to talk about today is your DJing, which is a very broad subject. So you mentioned to us, so for anyone interested in the history of this and how Oliver started DJing and how it was like in the 90s, and especially, which was very interesting last time, that you explained how first you had a very broad a taste, like was probably very common in those times, and then you turned more towards the traditional music throughout the decades, and now you're well, obviously a real lover of traditional music, but back in the days that was not so self-explanatory. So things changed. So if you're interested in this whole transition, well, take a look at the previous interview. So that's the history part, and then but there are a lot more things that can be said about tango DJing, which is not just how you developed some aspects through time, but there are also more details about, well, what you like, for example, what you like about DJing, and what your preferences are. What tango music you particularly enjoy yourself listening to. For example, these are the type of questions, like maybe advice for other people who want to become a DJ. So these are the type of questions that are very broad and a bit philosophical, and I thought you would be the right person to talk about it. So I guess that's where we're headed, and I'd love to invite you to say a bit about those things, if you can. So maybe about your DJing in general, like is there anything you can say about maybe your style or your personal imprint, something like that?
Yeah, there's something that occurred to me a few days ago. That when I started DJing, and then I'm not talking over the music itself, I was very interested in the silence you were able to create. And now, nowadays with the programs, the applications we use for DJing, you can automatically say, do always 3 or 2 seconds between every music piece. Just keep it like that, and you don't need to have an eye on it. And the spaces are the same. And I never, maybe nowadays, I once in a while do it like that I'm quite happy that it works automated. But especially at the beginning of a set in the evening, I like to do that manually. and I strongly experience that actually what happens between one dance and the other, between a tanda and a cortina, between a cortina and the next tanda, what happens in between, these are very precious moments. Now, you might have a conversation with your partner on the dance floor, or you might be so touched about what you experienced with each other in that group, in that space, with that music, that there is a silence before everybody starts chatting. And by the way, if you're lucky as a DJ to experience a real silence between two tango pieces, I think that is more rewarding than an applause by the dancing crowd. But before I discovered that, I thought the breath between two dances should be taken manually. So it can happen at the beginning of a set that I really wait 5-6 seconds until I switch on the next piece of music for dancing. But it can also be that I feel, oh, it has to come nearly immediately. We are ready. There's the next one. This is very subjective, of course. I have to be very in tune with the crowd. We have to feel each other very well. To have if there is a right feeling, have the right feeling at that moment, and to decide now it has to go further. And when I thought about this, working with the silence, with the space between two music pieces, actually the comparison came up. What a painter has at the moment he or she sits in front of the white piece of paper, or a sculptor who is working on stone or on wood. What happens before the first action is taken? This you might it is maybe a Zen moment. You wait for a moment. You take in the situation. You try to feel what is your goal now. What do you want to do? And then you get going with the first brush on the white piece of paper, with the first hammer, hitting the hammer onto the sculpture, with putting on the music. So the silence in comparison to the white piece of paper before you paint a painting. That's very important. Then I think another thing, what I discovered as a tango DJ, was that in the years I was busy with looking at dancing crowds, at tango dancers, trying to feel what is now the right music to play. Now you're facilitating the evening as a tango DJ. This is service to the dancers, which should make the dancers happy and should also make yourself happy in the end. The more I did that, it occurred to me that the listening, the ability to listen, to tune in via your ears, but also via your eyes, as if your eyes also would be able to listen, has to develop further, has to grow. And then you have the rational things. Huh? Do I hear that there's noise, or that there's even a sound, or there's music? Do I hear there's no music? There's a tone. Oh, the melody line goes up. The melody line goes down. There's a pause. Oh, it's a it's a melody line in major. Oh, it's more minor. And how are the harmonies? How are the dynamics? How is the rhythm? There's also a metric. There's a difference between metric and rhythm in music, huh? Beat and rhythm. You grow as a tango DJ. You grow in the ability to hear all these ingredients, which do something to the atmosphere during a DJ set, during a milonga. Yeah. So I think this growth in awareness, this growth in sensitivity, the ability to tune in more and more with a crowd of dancers, with also a crowd which sits around the dancers and might not be dancing at the moment, might be dancing in the next hour because the music that is played then suits them more, or they're then more in the mood of dancing and the others want to rest a little bit. So all these things, if you want to know what I think that my style is, then my style is put together out of all these the sensational aspects. I don't know if this is an answer to your question, but that's what comes up if you ask this.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because you seem to be making a general connection between art and what you're doing as a DJ.
Yeah.
And
I know that there are DJs which don't like the comparison, which don't want to see that what they are doing is an artistical process. There are DJs which don't like that. They don't want that it's too arty, because then they are maybe afraid of losing that it's actually a service to the dancers, the soberness of what they are doing. I can understand that very well, but you can also have an artistic ambition and keep being humble and being sober in what you do.
yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a very pretentious thing, right? I mean, that's what people probably make out of it if you start talking about art without them knowing any context. But what I hear from your story is that it's like art, but it has to do with your own emotions. And you could say that there's so many things in life that are art. So then this also becomes an art. And that's literally how they say it. Like, it's an art, like whatever the topic is, tango DJing is an art. And it's an art by itself. And it doesn't mean it's some kind of Mona Lisa painting, but it doesn't have to be. It's on its own level, right? It's and it's not something we should be judging as better or worse, or like, it's not a competition, but it's just you and the way you look at what you're doing and everything that surrounds you, and you can make comparisons with other things in life that feel like art to you. So I don't see the problem at all with that.
No, and it's very funny. I remember my art history teacher at school, and he was making a joke one time. He said, when you want to know, when you're looking for definitions of what is art. Now, this is a very, very broad field. So there are people, they say, oh, everything is art. Doesn't matter what you're doing. It's all art. And the other ones, they say, oh, there are maybe 2 or 3 paintings in the museum across the world. This is really art, and the rest is rubbish. So, and the same you can also say about tango. Is this now a good tango piece to dance on? All the music is possible, or there are actually only 2 pieces really, which I can accept. And yeah, I think you have to be aware that you're always moving between these more extreme views on the context. and keep breathing, I would say. Keep it relaxed, and improve your possibilities. Yeah.
Yeah, no, apart from the art theme, I think there's also a really interesting aspect of what you've been saying about observing and being observant. And you seem to be conscious and aware of a lot of things that not every DJ might be aware of. And again, I'm not saying that's necessarily better, but it really shows at least that you've really thought about these things really well. And I agree with them, like the way you talk about um like the different layers of consciousness. I mean, that sounds a bit pretentious the way I say it, but it's like you have the dancers and you have the people sitting somewhere and just all these different people doing different things, and you are in charge in a way of their whole evening, even though there might be other factors influencing whether they're having fun or not, like whether they get good dances, whether they have a nice chat with someone, to the extent to which they feel at home. There are many factors, you cannot control everything, but the way I really, when I remember you DJing at Sweet Milonga, which is the Milonga in Gouda that you DJ'd a lot as well as Sylvain. I can really imagine the way you were just sitting at that table, at that desk, and just doing your work. I mean, it's hard work. It's not, you're not necessarily only having fun. It's also a job in a way. But you're, you're just together with these people and together with the environment. And yeah, when you tell it like this, how it actually works in your mind, which I cannot know if I'm on the outside. I just see you, and anyone in that room just sees you when you're doing something. And you might be looking at your screen, you might be observing people, you might be like this, listening to something. It doesn't matter, but I cannot look inside your head. But the way you tell it now, it is evident to me that you are, in fact, um, well, how it works. You know how you also how you make your decisions as a DJ based on what you are observing and feeling. And yeah, that's it really shows that you have put in a lot of thought in and experience into this philosophy of how you do your DJing work.
Yeah. When you just referring to what you experienced at Sweet Milonga, it was a very intimate Milonga in Gouda and the Coffee Fabric. And as a DJ, we sat so close to the dancers that several times you would be touched by the dress of a dancer passing by. So you felt you had the chance as a DJ to feel the dancers physically. So you had to really watch that they don't dance over your laptop. But that was beautiful. It was beautiful because it felt to me very often as if I was sitting in the middle of the dancing crowd, although I was sitting at the side. Very special. Yeah. And yes, we tend to call that philosophical when we try to be aware what happens, what we are doing with our senses while we are busy. It's a kind of self-reflective moment. But our senses, especially our listening and what we can take in via our eyes, these are tools the DJ needs, besides the music, and that there's a space and a good stereo set, which makes a beautiful noise. Our senses are very important tools, and also understanding how these senses work, and what amazing things you can take in via your ears, what you all can hear in music, being a musician or not, and that it affects you emotionally, if you're aware of it or not.
And were you also I guess the answer is yes, but were you also actively like enjoying the music yourself as you were playing it? Did you feel
Yes.
like you can also connect with the music you're playing, not just with the people who dance to it, something like that?
Yeah, I think as a tango DJ, you're in contact with everything that's happening, consciously or not. Of course, if a glass drops and breaks somewhere, that's quite obvious. But maybe, yeah, how happy is the barista behind the bar this evening? Is he really does he have a good energy? Is he smiling a lot? Is he happy with that a lot of people are coming and ordering drinks? Yeah, somewhere you experience that. You take that in, take that with you, and it might also affect your decisions. Yeah.
But do you then think that, like in the past, I'm talking about the past because Sweet Milonga is currently not being organized because well, they lost the venue. The
Annelies is
venue
looking
was
for
sold. Yeah.
Annelies Osterbahn is she's the organizer. She's actually looking for a new venue
Yes.
in Gouda, and we don't feel any stress about that. We all agree with each other. At the moment there's a suitable space again, then we will start again, and it will be right. At the moment is a kind of yeah, I don't know, a peaceful moment in between. But
Okay.
you wanted to ask something about it. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's why I'm referring to the past because you cannot really make the comparison right now, but you could in the past. So you were talking about all these things that make up your DJing,
Mm.
and then I was mostly thinking about this venue and the milonga there, and this you then talked about that this venue being so intimate made it DJing different. So then my question is like, how was it in comparison, like at the other venues? Like how would DJing be different? And could you also, if you were somewhere where you weren't like DJing very often, was it harder for you to find contact with the crowd, something like that? That's where I'm.
Yeah, yeah, it's different. Then yeah, I might be able to try a comparison uh, with the set I played now in spring of this year in Bruges, in Brugge, in Belgium.
At an encuentro.
That was an encuentro called Las Brujas, and they have a very very big space there, beautiful space, wooden floor, lovely view out of the windows when you the sets you dance during the day, an amazing music set where you hear things in the tango music you might have not heard before. And the people dancing are not coming so close to the DJ as they have to do had to do it in the coffee fabric in Gouda. But because there's a little distance and the space is so big, and you sit also at a strategical, very handy spot so that you can see them all dancing and how they feel and feel them passing by. Yeah, you have to put on another pair of glasses. Um, I mean, don't mean really another pair of glasses, but you have to look a little bit further. You have to listen a little bit further. And you know that when you walk through a forest, you look different at nature than as if you are on top of a hill, where you look very very far to the mountains far away, and so you just tune in differently. So I think it is the same as if you compare DJing during the day by daylight or DJing in the night around midnight. You do different things in a big space, in a small space, with many people, with an amazing music installation, or with only a group of 50 people in a tiny space as Coffee Fabric in Gouda.
But in the end, I suppose you still show very similar behavior as a DJ in how you try to build up your set by, in your case, by being present, conscious of all the things that matter there.
Yeah, the behavior is different. You might dress differently. I think in at Sweet Milonga and Gouda, I never wore a jacket or a suit. But when I DJ for an encuentro, perhaps, or a marathon where there are many people, there's the space is big. It can be that I wear a jacket to give it a more official touch. So there's, yeah, you could say the Sweet Milonga was more casual, although the visitors of Sweet Milonga also honored the Codigos, came for the Epoca de Oro music we were DJing, very comparable to what happens in the decision taking of the dancers of an encuentro.
Yes, but if you are DJing at an encuentro or a marathon, is there something that's really different in maybe how you feel, or like yeah, you've already answered that to some extent, but are there other factors that are important to you? Do you feel more pressure, or is it harder for you that you know less people than where you're usually DJing? Is there something like that? I mean, it's a bit of a suggestive way of asking a question, but
the beautiful thing of DJing during a marathon or an encuentro or festival where there are many DJs, you listen to each other. You have a build up during the weekend. One of us starts, one of us ends. You might be somewhere in the middle with your set, or you have to really take in the whole bow from afternoon to afternoon, from evening to evening, until you have your own set. But when you have a loose milonga that where your set is happening, which stands on its own, people might come from their work. They have been at home, they have taken a shower, and it's at the end of the working week, and there has no other DJ friend, colleague had his or hers set before you, and there will be no set at that moment behind you. People will go home and go to bed and sleep, and next day they might go dancing somewhere else. So this is I think the big difference, and both has its beauty and has are just facts you have to deal with, and you actually facilitate them as a DJ.
And it's possible that this is too private of a question, so just tell me, but does, for example, if you have to play at an encuentro, does it make you more nervous, or can you just go with the flow and use these senses that you have to build up a set to be present in the moment?
No, I'm not. I'm actually I think I'm very lucky that when I sit there and everything is set up, and I might put down some notes in my notebook before I start playing the first piece, I really find rest and peace. I'm not suffering then from nervousness. What makes me nervous if there are problems in the setting of the music installation. And there is I also can calm myself very well down if everything is prepared well and it's just okay, yeah? And during calming down, I also try to make already contact with the space. Is it a big space? Is it a small space? What mood are the people in? So I'm much more busy with this non-verbal dialogue that happens between DJ and crowd at that moment. Yeah, and I'm very lucky that I don't suffer from is it stage fever? I don't know the English word. Plankenkoorts.
I think people understand. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, some performance anxiety. I think it's called like that, but
Yeah,
it's a bit
yeah.
of an official term. So I think what you said is also perfectly understandable for everyone. Um, but do you well, maybe as a conclusion of what you said, I think it's a very nice perspective um that you have all these ideas about philosophical ideas about DJing, and not everyone might agree with that, and not everyone might need those, but it's really inspiring to others, I think, to see how someone like you connects with a crowd, with a space, and just observes all these things. And I think there's something anyone can learn from that. So and not even in the sense that what you're doing is better than others, but more that these are factors that probably everyone should be aware of, that you have all these things going on, and not everyone has to be so focused as you on, for example, these people who are sitting in the crowd. Like, some people might find it less important than you. It doesn't matter, but I think everyone has can learn from your. That's also what I wanted to say about that you are not so anxious um about giving about doing a
Performing.
set. Yeah, performing. um it's also maybe because you're experienced, and maybe that helps to know that what you're doing is the right thing, and that you just can trust in the process.
But also, I must say, I let it go. At the moment, I'm at work. I'm not in reflection the whole time. This is I like to compare that with a piano player which trains the technique and knows everything about the music piece that has to be played. But at the moment that the concert is happening, you forget. You have to forget it all. You have to go for it, and all your exercise only serves you at that moment. So if you are stuck in this too strong self-reflection and maybe even mirroring yourself while you are busy as a DJ in the evening, then yeah, that is, I think, then you get really, it will not really happen. You will hold it. Huh? So what I tell now, all these thoughts, uh, they come afterwards or before it happens, and they are only there because I take distance at the moment to the act itself. And that might seem to be philosophical, but yeah, but I'm only very I'm very interested in that part of the whole DJ work.
Yes, and
I'm
you
very
have been.
well, very aware of it, but I think it's also very important. Let it go, forget it. If you dance, you dance. Go for the moment, for the beautiful experience with your partner in the music, and take care of the other couples. It's a social, it's a social thing. Maybe even the social art, tango.
So one of the questions I proposed in the beginning is, any advice for other DJs or people who want to become a DJ? I guess you've already answered this to a great
Yeah.
extent, right?
Honor your growth, which will happen at the moment you start DJing. Honor and be honest about what you really hear, what you see, and also be aware that everybody who on a regular basis is so kind and to join your sets and to be with you and to dance on your music, they grow with you. You go into a process with each other, and yeah, take that chance, do it.
So maybe a last question about the DJ topic. Is there, like, what tango music do you really enjoy yourself for listening, for example? It may not even have to do with DJing, but just a personal preference. Is there something you like? Last time you gave us a song,
No,
quite a rare song, but I don't mean it in that way. So it's not like a
no.
specific song, but more
Yeah, last time Tanto in the Calo orchestra version popped up in my mind as yeah. At the moment, I'm very much into Lawrence, and it is also because I'm listening a lot to the new transfers by Jens Ingo and Benedict from Brussels, and I hear things I never heard before. I always loved Lawrence very much. I think it's very elegant, very, very pure tango music. Very, very amazing to dance on. And now, yeah, with these new transfers, we just hear new things. I'm very attracted to Lawrence. But I'm also good D'Arienzo Echague from the 40s. Yeah, I never get tired to listening to La Bruja, perhaps Ansiedad. I can hear them again and again. Pugliese, Troilo, Pugliese Moran. Great stuff. Biaggi, all phases, just amazing. When Biaggi was still sitting behind the piano in the D'Arienzo orchestra, but also at the moment, then he had his own orchestras. I also, for a while, I was not listening so much to the Guardia Vieja. And now in Berlin at the High Noon Marathon, where I was invited as a guest, I was not there as a DJ. I was actually there together with Siobhan, who had a beautiful set during that weekend. I heard a lot of.
Sorry, she was DJing.
She was DJing.
Okay, okay.
I was allowed to join her. And I anyway love High Noon Marathon very much, organized by Daniela and Raimund in Berlin. And there I heard again a lot of Guardia Vieja. And it's a lot of touching music in there. Because I know there are encuentros and also marathons where you nearly don't hear any Guardia Vieja. Yeah. But also the 50s, the 60s, the Calo Orchestra in the 60s. If you've never listened to it, do it. It's really amazing stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, tango music is so full of evergreens that you can keep listening and listening to. And yet there are also songs that we haven't really paid much attention to, and maybe it's for good reason, but even if you're just listening, there's, for example, what I love about tango is that, for example, you have so much tango canción, which is pretty much just a singer and some hard word accompaniment, just an orchestra. That's one of the hardest words for me in English. Being supported by an orchestra or by guitarists, and you can listen to other versions of what you're used to, but then in this format. And sometimes it can be so amazing because, for example, there's a third part of the lyrics. Well, I understand Spanish, so it's a bit different maybe than for some other people in Europe, but you can be so surprised by how beautiful the unsung part is, and then you listen to the original, which is famous, and maybe you get a new appreciation also of the original. So there's so many ways you can still keep going. And I haven't been in this for 30 years like you have, but I suppose that even after 30 years, it's you still get, well, you're talking about Calo from the 1960s, which is just practically unknown, I would say. And then you still find things there that are interesting for it's an extremely rich genre. And it's great to hear you. Maybe as a last thing, that's a bit of a hard question, but do you have an example of something in the Lawrence Orchestra you only heard recently because of the new transfers, or because you simply started listening to something again? Like, is there something like a violin or like something? I know this question might be a bit hard if you can't like if you don't have to actually prepared and ready for us to listen to, but maybe something more general, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, when you listen to Lawrence, I'm just looking here at a playlist from the past that might help. Yeah. I would say start with the milongas from the early 40s to really get the to get a feeling for how great this orchestra was, and then go further with the tangos. I will really start with the early 40s, so not. And then if you can get if you are able to buy the transfers now made by Jens Ingo and Benedict.
Tango Time Machine.
Do that, yes.
Yes.
They call themselves Tango Time Machine. It's beautifully published. Comes with explanation, and they even did research on the pitch the orchestra was playing in. They were not always playing tone A, 440 hertz. There were changes. And they explained that very properly, and you might not in the set then want to combine music pieces out of different times where the pitch is different. It doesn't fit so well anymore. And they really made sure that in the transfer it is the correct pitch.
Okay.
So was at that time. I think this is very, very good to know. And in the 90s we didn't think about that at all when we were DJing. We even didn't know that. I didn't know that there were any differences. I knew it from Karajan, the famous German orchestra conductor, that he once in a while, when the techniques of recording got more and more advanced, that the whole orchestra changed their pitch to be more brilliant. But an orchestra like the Lawrence Orchestra, we're also busy with that.
So moving on to another subject.
Yes, please.
You were also known for making a radio show about tango for many years.
Yes.
I believe that's also now maybe less of a priority, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I don't do it on a regular basis anymore. So it was something that we could do together with the local broadcasting service in Gouda called Kruse-Dougherty Radio. So there was always on Monday evening at 10 o'clock Gouda time, Radio Tango was happening, was repeated on Tuesday. And it only happens once in a while. Now I really would love to do some interviews again with Michael Avoca. He has find out new things he might like to share with us. And then you will find it on Mixcloud, and it will also be announced on Facebook, of course. So you will see that it happens, and you can listen to it, and then at any time you want, if he still wants to do it.
Well, let's hope so. So one of the things I wanted to ask about that, even though it's maybe something of the past, like, was there any DJing difference between DJing and making those programs in the way you select what you want to play and what you want to do? I mean, I suppose there is, but what is the difference? What's the difference?
Both fields inspired each other. Of course, out of the DJing, I got a lot of inspiration, which you find back in the programs. But making a radio program, of course, gives you the possibility also to play tango music, which is not as danceable as you need it during a milonga. So I sometimes, for the programs, discovered music I would never have played in a milonga. So both is a kind of cross pollination that happened between making the radio programs and DJing. Yeah, and then of course when you play a DJ set, you're not after every two pieces are talking to.
Yes.
You might talk to someone sitting beside you, but you rather actually don't want it because that reduces your focus. And with a radio program, there comes a lot of talking, explaining, sharing what you feel at the moment. And then you're also not live at the same moment in the same space, connected to the people who listen to your music. It's can be very lonely making a radio program, sitting there on your own in the studio, recording what you want to say, recording the music, which is going to be broadcast. And then on a milonga, on a festival, on a party, there's the live contact with everyone. You see each other, you feel each other, you kiss and hug each other. That's it's quite the opposite, but it belongs together. And that was also our idea in the beginning, that we wanted to give people in the town we were teaching the possibility to also listen to the music. Maybe.
So I guess that meant you wouldn't play the most obscure things. If you were trying to introduce local people to the music, maybe you wouldn't play the most obscure songs that doesn't really serve them a purpose as a dancer.
But I might also at Radio Tango, it is more possible to play neo tango and tango nuevo, which I personally don't do nowadays during a set. Maybe as an encore at the very end, if there's a very special piece of music which fits to the atmosphere and gives us a nice saying goodbye atmosphere, then I might do that, but not during the set itself.
Okay.
The radio program, allows you to do anything.
Yes.
Because there are no the dancers. There might be people at home listening to a program, dancing on your music, and but they don't expect that you now play something you feel at the moment that might be right. It's a different situation.
They're probably more flexible than when you're DJing, and they have paid to enter a milonga, and they want to have some music that at least is danceable, and you cannot just play Ignacio Corsini with guitars.
Yes,
I mean, that's the difference.
You can play. You really can play tango canción. Yeah.
And how did you come up with the idea of doing interviews on your radio program?
It's a very old thing. When I started in Aachen, I think we talked about it in the last interview we did together. I was working together for a while with Claudia Hernandez, a professional radio maker from Venezuela, actually.
Yes.
And she came up with ideas that you make interviews, especially maybe only with men. Guys, how do you feel about tango? What does it do? And then another program only with women. So we had subjects like the man in the tango, the woman in the in tango, and about the history. And I know I had a great interview with Marianne Jetten. She's not so well known anymore amongst the young generation of tango dancers in the Netherlands, but she was together with Hervé Cousin, teaching in Nijmegen and Arnhem at the end of the 19th, and they influenced with their style very much the dancers at that time. And she speaks a beautiful German, so I think she came to Aachen even into the studio. Or did I interview her in Nijmegen? I don't know it anymore. But she was talking about herself and tango and how that is teaching tango. Yeah. in those days.
But you also did it more recently in your own program, in your local
Yes,
program.
yes. I had Stefan Wimmer from Nijmegen one time in the program, which was big fun, and a lot of interviews with Mike Lavocca. We had musicians from a tango orchestra in the studio, and I interviewed Kim van Egmond, which took over our classes. Yeah, I like that format very much. Sitting together, listening to music, sharing what you feel, you have experienced, being together, what is actually very strongly happening in tango. You can listen to it on your own. You can even move on the music on your own. But actually, it's all about sharing, being together, seeing friends, having fun together with beautiful music.
Oh, well said. Well said. So one thing I would like to ask you as well is what about your experience with Buenos Aires?
Yes, I was only one time in Buenos Aires. That was 1999. I think the peso was still connected to the dollar.
Yeah, tied to the dollar.
Prices
Yes.
were totally different.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. I arrived around 9 o'clock in the morning. I flew from, what was it? I think I flew from Stuttgart via Milan to Buenos Aires. It was spring in Europe. It was autumn or late summer in Buenos Aires. And I had decided not to go to the place where I was sleeping and staying overnight by taxi, but I wanted to take the bus. So I passed all the taxi drivers after I had arrived at the airport, and I'm quite tall, and all the taxi drivers, or a few of them, not all of them, were shouting of "Che Flaco." I think it means my tall one or something like that.
Yeah. It's more like the being thin,
Yeah.
but it's used like as a word for someone who's just for a guy as well, but maybe also for if you're thin and if you're tall, like something like that. Yeah, it's a funny
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. Okay. So they wanted me to sit with them in the cab, and then they would have driven me to the place I wanted. But it was so beautiful actually hearing that. So I felt very welcome. But then I sat I chose for a bus, and the bus really brought me to, I can't say the address anymore. I'm so sorry. Somewhere in the center of Buenos Aires, and it was really slow. I think it took 1 hour.
Sorry, why did you do that?
I wanted really
To
to
experience.
experience. I want to sit with people who live in Buenos Aires in the bus with my luggage, and I really wanted also to see how the architecture changed, how the atmosphere changed while I was in this bus driving to the center. So really slowly get there, and I was very lucky. I had in the airplane I had a seat where there was no seat in front of me. So I had a little bit hand luggage, which I had put on the ground, so I could put my legs onto that hand luggage. And I had a I had a glass of red wine, and I fell asleep. And I think I woke up in the airplane when we were above the Rio de la Plata. So, and I looked out of the window, and Rio de la Plata is not for nothing called Rio de la Plata, because it has this golden silver color when you look out of the airplane. So it looks really like the color of money. And it's beautiful. Now, so I had slept, and I had a beautiful sleep up there in the sky on an international flight. So I had a lot of rest. I was not tired. And I arrived at the place where I could stay. It was a tango friend. She has, I think she still has, it was the apartment of Amira Campora. Maybe a few of our listeners might know her. And I was allowed to stay in her flat. And I had a bath. And then I decided to go to Confiteria Ideal, which had an afternoon milonga. And I went on my sport shoes I also once in a while dance on, and I had in my little rucksack I had my dancing shoes. And so I arrived there, went up the steps, and then you just can't pay and go in and look for a place. No, I got a ticket with a number, and then one of the women who belonged to the organizing team at that time, really, she accompanied me and brought me to a special seat where I was allowed to sit. And it was totally on the other side of the long, long dance floor. So I walked through during a cortina. The dance floor was empty. And that was already so amazing, not being allowed to walk on your own to where you want to sit, but being accompanied. And I don't know why she seated me there, because leaders were sitting on one side, in those days only men, and the women were sitting on the other side. And I think I got to sit somewhere in a tourist area where everything was possible. And I had not expected, I was not planning to dance at all. I only wanted to observe, wanted to take in, how do they dance? And I had heard a lot about it. People had told me, you will see they are always on the music. They love the music, and every movement is in the context of the music. And I knew I knew from Europe the total opposite. I knew milongas in the 90s where the music was there and people were dancing, and the music was a nice decoration in the space, but the dancing had nothing to do with the music. And I sat there on that chair. I don't know what I had ordered. Maybe a glass of water. I have no idea. I didn't change my shoes. And all the couples came on the dance floor. And it was a Pugliese tanda, maybe Pugliese Chanel. So 40s, very danceable Pugliese music. And I thought, what a first tanda to listen to and to watch the people from Buenos Aires and some tourists dancing on this music. And then they went into the embrace, and there was an older couple very close to me, standing in front of me. And they went into the embrace on that piece of Pugliese with Chanel, I'm quite sure. And already the way how they went into the embrace together, how they grounded, you really saw how the whole weight went down into the ground, how they were looking not only for each other, but also for what does the gravity at the moment do to my posture in this embrace before I do the first step. And they even were bending down a little bit with each other in the embrace. And then the first movement happened, and it was so in the music that I thought, oh my God, I will only watch. I will not dance today. I will only watch and observe. And I was, maybe for an hour I was allowed to do that. And there were a lot of dancers which were...
Sorry, what do you mean I was allowed to do that?
To only watch and observe. There was no need for me to dance. That's what I mean with being allowed to. And
yes,
there were some male dancers which were very well aware of how much I was attracted pure to the let's say the emotional part that was going on there. So they also did special things in front of me. as if they were taking me with them in their dance. That's how it felt to me. And then I had really, for the first time, I saw Mirada and Cabeceo. I only had heard theoretically about that. There was no really, where I was dancing in southern Germany in those years, there was no real Cabeceo, Mirada culture at that time. You just got up, you went to someone and asked her, would you like to dance to me? And she said yes or no. We didn't do that in those days, but I knew theoretically I'd heard about that way of asking each other for a dance. And so there I saw it for the first time, and in the first instance, I could not see how do they make eye contact? How do they nod? I only knew there was a kind of secret going on, that they found each other new for every new tanda. And then I thought, I first have to learn this, because otherwise I will not be able to have any dance. And then maybe after an hour, I suddenly looked to the side where the women were sitting. And it was a kind of shock, because I suddenly saw, and now I'm going to tell an anecdote. I think tango has humor. When you start dancing tango, you come in a lot of situations where where I had the feeling if the tango would be an entity on its own, which works through the music and through the poetry and through the dance, or a spirit, let's call it like this, with which you make contact, then I once in a while had the feeling tango makes fun out of you, is taking the piss maybe once in a while. And what I'm going to tell now, that this was a situation like that, where I really felt, now you're making a fool out of me. So, okay, let's carry on, and then you will understand why I say that. So I suddenly saw that a beautiful woman, was looking at me, was looking into my eyes and waiting for me maybe to nod or to agree with this contact that we are going to dance. I was actually not ready for it, but I thought, if this is now the case, then I will do my best and I will dance. So I nodded and we got up. What I all had seen now before in that hour, I tried to put in. So I was very properly preparing the embrace, going into the embrace, and it felt beautifully. We moved. We had a beautiful dance. We didn't speak a word. And at the end of the dance, in fluent German, she talked to me that she knew me from Cologne and had seen me dancing there. So, and I was of course very proud. I'm dancing with a chica from Buenos Aires, and oh wow, how great I am! It was, of course, a beautiful dancer from Germany. So this was the moment where I thought, oh yeah, tango takes the piss. So you are very, very proud of something you have achieved at the moment, not knowing why, and then you realize, no, it is just pure, basic, normal, simple. Don't exaggerate. Just be yourself. Enjoy what is happening, and do your best.
So I guess you didn't let her know about your confusion.
I told her everything.
Oh, you told her everything. Okay, okay.
It was a big giggle. We later went for a beer and then for a dinner and everything, and had a great time. Really good. Now I don't know what she's doing nowadays. I think she found a nice partner in Vienna and has moved to Vienna. I have no idea, but tango has brought her to somewhere else in the world. But it was a very beautiful moment.
Were there a lot of tourists present?
Yeah, there are always a lot of tourists.
Okay.
And you think you go abroad to the other side of the equator, the other side of the big sea, and to see people you don't know, and there they are again. So I even had the sensation that I suddenly, when I was sitting there watching the dance where I had in the air, I smelled licorice, and I know this smell. This can only be one person from Hamburg who chews on licorice instead of chewing gum. And I turned around, and there he was standing, a French.
Oh, right. Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, things like that. So you actually, if you want to be away from friends or tango people, no. Going to Buenos Aires will not help. You may meet them again.
Yeah, but maybe that's a funny thing, but maybe it used to be like that, but nowadays with all the encuentros and marathons, I have the feeling that goes at the expense of people traveling to Buenos Aires. So you actually, when you go to Buenos Aires, you might not meet them there anymore. I'm not sure if that's true, but that's the general impression I have.
It is also, the world has changed since 1999. I can only tell you about what I experienced then, and I think at the moment that it was allowed again, people were, of course, now around COVID. At the moment was possible again, of course, people who like to go to Buenos Aires, they did it and do it again. I have no idea. I have to talk to friends which have been there, how they experience it now.
And but did you get to dance the same day that you get to dance with local people as well?
Yes, there was one woman from Buenos Aires who wanted to dance with me. So it was, that was beautiful. I don't know her name anymore.
But it takes some time, right, to enter a scene.
The first 3 days, I was not my partner at that time. She came 3 days later, so everybody thought I was there as a single man, and that made it a bit easier to get dances.
Yes.
But I'm a very tall guy, and so they also wanted to see that I can dance a little bit before they dared to or were interested at all to dance with me. Yeah. And I was not dancing so long yet in that. No, it's not true. I was already with tango since. No, I was already dancing quite a while. But in comparison when I think of my musicality in the dance in those years, I had a lot to learn when I saw the friends dancing there and on the pistas.
Even the Europeans.
Yes, we were. When it comes to musicality in our dance, we were really at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. There's still I have it still when I sit with a DJ friend together while he has a set, she or I have a set, and we watch the dancers, we often have the feeling, I don't see what I hear. At the moment you also see what you hear, these are still very precious moments, especially in Germany and in the Netherlands. When you go further east to Ukraine, Poland, Russia, and to the south, the people, Italy, Spain, there's much more musicality in the dance of the dancers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Even in the present, you're talking about the present.
I'm talking about
not about the 90s.
No, I'm talking about this century already. Yeah. About present tense.
Yeah. I've understood from some interviews I've done with people who experienced the 90s, even the 80s maybe, is that the musicality level back then was quite basic in general, but you still knew people who really knew what they were doing in terms of musicality, because there was also much less access to the music back then, and the music played in Europe was probably broader than it is now, like genre broader than just traditional tango music. So it takes people to listen to the music to develop musicality as well. You cannot just have musicality from one day to the other.
The teaching has changed, of course, in the last years. the tango teachers focus much more on musicality. Yeah, it has also it's also important that we have better transfers, so you hear more.
It's a strange question, maybe, but a final strange question. Do you ever see yourself going back to Buenos Aires?
I've thought about that. Siobhan and I also talked about it. They are once in a while we had ideas how we could do that, and but at the moment it's not on our
I understand. I understand.
It might be beautiful to do that once. Yeah.
Yes, it's maybe one day, but I guess you have a lot of other interesting things to do and some international events and some DJing. So, well, thank you.
If that happens, yes, of course.
Thanks for your philosophical thoughts again today. It's been great talking to you, and I really like the subjects that we explored here, and well, I'm looking forward to see you again in real life.
That would be wonderful.
Yes.
Let's make an appointment.
Yes, good idea. Okay, but at least we have this now, and it was really a lot of fun. I think people enjoy it. So thanks for today, and see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you, Lucas. Thank you very much.